Alright, everybody, welcome back. And, yeah, the tornado is just as bad as you think it is.
Stabilizer motion.
Too low. Terrain.
Overspeed.
Pull up.
Overspeed.
Pull up. Bank angle. Bank angle. Bank
20,
angle.
10. Retard. Retard.
Now, all jokes aside, let's just be honest, the tornado, it doesn't really have that great of a place in War Thunder as of right now. Now, I know a lot of people are going to try and tell me, hey, just play like an interceptor, but as Defin and some of the other CCs have said, there's nothing to intercept. We don't have these bombers in War Thunder that are able to fill that role. We don't have stuff like the B-52. And so what you have is a plane that is semi-competent at least killing enemy planes, but has incredibly poor flight performance, at least for top tier. It's not even that fast. The flight performance when it comes to maneuverability isn't all that much. It just isn't really in a good spot. Now, that is when it's at top tier, of course. Now, this plane is 11.3, so it's, to be fair, not 100% fair to compare to stuff like the MiG-29 and the F-16, but that is what you're going to be fighting a lot of the time, and it is technically a 4th generation jet. Although that is up for debate, Gaijin themselves, they've said that they don't believe it's a 4th gen jet. I'm not 100% sure either way what I think about it, but regardless, almost every game you're going to be fighting F-16s like the one that's behind me right here. You're going to be fighting MiG-29s, and it is not pretty, let's just put it that way. Now, let's talk about exactly what you're dealing with here. Now, compared to the Strike Tornado, which is already in the game, it does have better engines, it is a little bit more maneuverable, and you do get access to a much better loadout of missiles. Now, of course, your main weapons are going to be your Super Temp Sky Flash, and it's basically just a slightly upgraded Sky Flash. I've seen some people trying to argue that it's an AIM-7F contemporary. Don't be fooled, it's really not. Not at all. It doesn't have as much thrust, it doesn't burn for nearly as long. It is at least better than the standard Sky Flash that you get on, the FGR and the FG, for example, and on the Viggen. But it is not going to be an R27ER or AIM-7F contemporary. Anyone who tells you that, I'm sorry, but they're just plain wrong. So just keep that in mind. Now, that is paired with one of the better radars in the game. The Fox Hunter that this thing has is actually a pretty competent radar. It's very strong. It's got some nice modes as well. Now, one strange thing I have noticed is that I have had some issues with it locking chaff and pull Stoppler, which is a little bit interesting. I've had some issues with that with the F-16 and stuff like that before, but this one does it a lot. So I'm not 100% sure exactly what is going on there. It does also get TWS, which I personally like because the spotting system is horrible, and this guy that is 7 kilometers away from me is not spotted right now. So I'm just able to go ahead and turn on TWS so I can keep track of people this way without actually pinging them. So, now, here is that flight performance I was telling you about. Now, you know how I was complaining about the F-16 last patch, before they fixed the flight model this patch? Yeah, well, this thing can barely even pull 8 or 9 Gs, and you can see I almost crashed right here, just trying to turn. It struggles, and this is at sea level. Imagine on one of the bigger maps, or I guess I should say the higher elevation maps, like the new the mountain one, or if you get Vietnam or Afghanistan. It is not pretty. The thing does not turn. It doesn't even like to point its nose, to be honest, but even when it points the nose, it's just pulling it away. It's kind of like the T2 in that regard. It can point its nose forever, but that doesn't mean it's actually turning where you're telling it to go. Now, it does at least get AIM-9Ls, and AIM-9Ls now have that massive gimbal. I mean, you probably saw it earlier in the video. If not, I'll be sure to show you all that again here in a little bit. But that huge gimbal limit at least allows you to go ahead and get a lock on someone and at least use your AOA to get your nose in front of them before firing it, because I'm going to be totally honest with you, you are not getting many gun kills in this thing. Now, and even when you do get a gunshot off like this right here, it's probably going to crit him, and then your friendly F4S is going to steal your kill, and you're going to be very angry. Now, I do have to say, like I was saying earlier, this is an 11.3 plane. That does mean that, theoretically, sometimes you're going to get down tiers. Like in this case, I did actually manage to get a 10.3 game. And when you're in a full down tier, it is actually relatively good. Now, that is, of course, when you're fighting 10.3s, and a lot of them are in F5Cs and other stuff like that and have no idea what they're doing. But at least in this case, you have one of the best missiles at the VR. when it comes to your radar missile. The radar is definitely the best 11.3 radar as far as I'm aware. Either this or the Mirage 2000, one of those two. I kind of lean more towards the Mirage 2000's radar being better, now that I think about it, but either way, it's a very good radar, and the missiles do have better range than the normal Sky Flash, so you are going to be able to get some relatively long-range shots like I did right there, but don't expect to be able to try and fire, like, 30, maybe 40 kilometers like you could try and do in the Name 7F at high altitude in maps like this. You're not going to be hitting those shots. This thing does not have the thrust, it does not have the burn time. Now, one nice thing is that the radar does have the ability to switch lock types. You can see like I did right here. He was trying to notch me, so I just go ahead and switch from Pulse Doppler into the normal search mode, also known as Pulse mode. And because he's not dropping chaff, I'm totally fine, and my missile can keep on guiding in either way. Now, AIM-9Ls, of course, one of the best short-range IR missiles in the game. R23T and R24T are technically better, but I don't really count them in the same class. And when you get 4 of those, plus 4 of these Super Temp Sky Flashes, and you're actually in a 10.3 match, it does leave you with the ability to do some damage. However, you can see I cannot turn, and when I try and throw my wings out, they're completely manual, and they rip immediately. Now, it does actually fly relatively well when you do rip, but you do got to keep that in mind. You're going to rip your wings if you try and go ahead and do manual. So unlike in the F-14, I probably wouldn't do most of the time. Now, AIM-9Ls, of course, are still going to work even when you're dead, but unfortunately, I don't know if it's just this plane or all planes in general, but now it just won't even let you turn your radar back on once you're dead. In the past, it would turn it off for you, and you could manually turn it back on, but it just wouldn't let me at all. So, if you do rip your wings, then unfortunately, for some reason, your radar is now completely inoperable. But you do at least get 4 AIM-9Ls, which is still a good loadout, like I said. So, you can kind of coast around like this right here. And I'm just going to be honest with you, your turn rate's probably not going to be affected too much. This thing doesn't turn anyway, so. One of the more disappointing things with a Tornado for me is the very lackluster speed. Now, this right here isn't a really good comparison because I am missing a wing and that's adding a lot of drag, but even just in general, it doesn't really feel that fast. You're going to get caught by the F-16s and MiG-29s, of course, but even MiG-21s, that SPSK would probably catch me even if I had both my wings on. The plane itself is relatively fast in a straight line. The problem is the acceleration is so incredibly slow that it's feasibly you're not going to be outrunning people most of the time. So you're going to have to hope you get stuff like that because you can't turn with people. Most of the time you can't outrun them. The weapons are alright, but nothing too spectacular. It's just really not an amazing plane. Now, even though it's not good per se, I still do kind of enjoy flying it. It's one of those planes where it's a nice challenge every once in a while, but I wouldn't tell you to go out and grind this thing. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. So, hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see y'all next time. So, peace, y'all.